Hey, you guys, welcome to another live broadcast. Sorry, I'm a little bit late. So glad that you guys are here with me. And yeah, we are getting close to the finish line of November of 2025. So what we're going to do is let's go ahead and hit it. And when we're going to give people time to get in. And once you get in, we're going to go ahead and get things started with this conversation. Okay. All right, let's go ahead.
This one's for every queen who thought a crown was too heavy to wear. But baby, that crown was built for light.
You twist, you turn, you tuck, you side. Mirror talking, why can't it just lie? But I see galaxies in every curl. A sacred pattern, baby, that built the world. They said too coarse, I said too divine. High quality always takes time. Girl, your roots run deep as history. That's more than beauty, that's ancestry. You may think your hair's a curse, but I see it as a blessing. You've been stressing with that pressing, but your essence, baby, that's the lesson. Let your crown glow, let it breathe, let it show.
All right.
Crowns aren't meant to be covered, no. I don't care what the others think, we just wanna see you happy. I'm happy, cause that's how I know.
Another wonderful day here in the great state of Arizona. And yes, the sun has been out today. Looking forward to this conversation about the holidays. And looking forward to hearing back from you as well. Just go give people time to get in. After this song, we'll get things started.
That's two of us, me and you. Let's leave China and India out this talk. We walk in roots that angels walk. No synthetic love could ever compete with the rhythm that your curls beat. You say it's hard to manage, but art always takes some damage. Still you shine through all that pain. Girl, that's power in your mane. Let your crown glow, let it show, let it show. Crowns aren't meant to be covered, no. I don't care what the others think, we just wanna see you happy. I'm happy cause that's how I know it's true. Learn to love your crown, baby, I'll show you how. That's foreseen, that's legacy in motion. That's melanin devotion. Don't straighten what was made to rise. You were born from the sunrise. So let it twist, let it bloom. There's a whole universe in your room. You don't need their approval. I see you clearly, foresee. I see you, baby, I foresee you. Baby, I foresee you.
Shout out to all of our beautiful women out there. We're letting you know again that we love the way that you came pre-packaged. You don't have any additions, nothing like that. We from one man, one brother to many of y'all. I'm just saying that. I just want to make sure we always echo that, because this is important. It's an important message to get out. And that's why I put this song together here, because it's not just, I'm not just thinking the adult women, I'm also thinking these young girls too. I saw a video this week, or actually it was yesterday, and she's a young black woman. She said that a mother brought her 9-year-old, if I'm getting it correct, 9-year-old son, not daughter, son, into to get his nails done. And she said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And the mother, had some words, they exchanged words and all of that. But at the end of the day, this woman, nail stylist or tech or whatever, she stood her ground. She said, no, I'm not doing this. And she said, in fact, if your child is under 16, she said, it was either 16 or 14, one of the two. She said, I'm not doing it. And I don't personally have an issue with women wearing makeup or putting stuff on your head and all that. I really don't. I mean, whatever you like doing, you do your thing. You know what I mean? But what I do understand, and I think what we all understand, is that we live in a society that applauds that and encourages that, right? At the same time, abandoning your original packaging and always echoing that you need to upgrade, you need to add this, you got to have that and all of that. And we got to start changing the narrative a little bit and saying, no, you can go either way. If you want to put something on, hey, that's you. You know what I mean? But we also we want to make sure we have a strong baseline voice here saying that, no, but we like your packaging, and so that's what we want, because like I said, again, that message not only goes to our older women, but also our younger women too. So I just want to make sure we're doing our part to set these narratives in the way they're supposed to be, So anyway, but good to have you guys here today. Today, of course, is on November the 26th. 2025, and we are a day away from Thanksgiving. Now, I know for some of you, Thanksgiving is a very triggering time of the year because, this is a time of the year that, for many reasons, some of you say, hey, I don't necessarily do the whole Thanksgiving thing simply because I don't like my family, and I just don't like being around them because Uncle Jimmy's this way, or Auntie so-and-so's that way, such and such this. So you got that class of people. You got that group of people, right? And you also got some people who say, listen, because of my personal belief system, whatever the religion that you're in, mostly it's a Bible-based one that I hear this from people, or it could be, I don't know, Muslims. Maybe someone could let me know, when it comes to Thanksgiving, I'm not going to celebrate that because, we are commanded in our book that we are not to acknowledge any of these holidays at all, and because when you look at the history of these holidays, they're actually holidays and we're not supposed to acknowledge them at all, right? So you got that group of people too. People who say that, because of their belief system, they're not going to acknowledge that. You also got a group of people who will say, hey, listen, forget the whole religious nonsense. For me, I just don't acknowledge these holidays because I've looked into the history of it. It's similar to what the religious people will say. And they will say, listen, there's some connection between how they would treat Black folks during these times of the year and these holidays. And so I feel that by celebrating these holidays, I am celebrating what they did to my people. And it could be Christmas, it could be Thanksgiving, whatever holiday it is, right? So you got that bucket of people. Then you got final group of people, I may be missing one or two there, people who just simply don't have anybody to go to. Well, today's video is for all of you, okay? And we're going to take a very mature look at this thing. And the goal of it is not for you to abandon whatever your belief systems are. If you cling on to that, you still believe that, and, and you want to hold on to that, if that's your belief system, and if that's your personal conviction, okay, fine, okay, fine. But at least hear out what we're going to talk about, because there, with every decision, there's also going to be some consequences that go along with it. There's other sides to it. When you make a decision about something, there's other things too that are being decided for you. And so we just want you to see the whole picture. And then at the end of the day, whatever you decide to do as an individual, well, that's completely up to you. And who you're hearing from today, well, if you're brand new to the channel, of course, my name is Dwayne. And my lovely wife, Nicole, who's not present in this video right now, but she's around. We are individuals that have come out of Christianity. We've been in Christendom for numbers of years. For me, it's a little bit over 40 years. And then both of us, we both were in the Hebrew Israelite movement for some time as well. And, and Christianity, not so much. When we were Christians, of course, Christmas was a very big thing along with Thanksgiving. They have their spin on how these are holidays that you should acknowledge and all of that. And Jesus is the reason for the season and all of that stuff, right? All those, fine, Then later, as you get into deeper Christianity, you know, depending on some of the people, Christians you hang out with or listen to, they will be very quick to pull out some books that will really go through the history of Christmas and what some of the practices that used to happen during Christmas time and all of that. And, you know, wow, golly wash, we shouldn't probably be acknowledging these holidays because, you know, I'm reading back in the day, it was along the same lines as the pagan holidays, and we're not supposed to do the pagan stuff and all of that stuff. And then, of course, in the Bible, it talks about, you know, the tree with a lot of lights on it. And, you know, you have a belief system in those times that they used to do that. They would put a tree, they would have a tree and they would put lights on it. Or, you know, I guess during that time, it was like candle lights on it and all that. And that was all dedicated to whatever god or goddess that they were worshiping. And so many people believe that there is a connection between, and it's a very plausible argument between what we see today, the Christmas tree that we know of today versus the Christmas tree of that time, you know? So, you know, you can make those connections and all of that, right? And so, and then when we got into the Hebrew space, of course, absolutely no, you don't acknowledge any of these holidays. They're all demonic, and the only days that we're supposed to acknowledge are the feast days. We're supposed to acknowledge his holy, divine months of the year and all of that, right? So as I just spent a few minutes there just going through all of that, you can see this time of the year, it has a lot of variables to it, right? And so we just like to keep things informed, but also simple. You know, when you're learning something, particularly as a child, and I'm not calling you a child, but it is something worth looking into. I mean, just reflecting on things. They didn't start you off with calculus. They didn't start you off with trigonometry or anything like that, right? Learning should always be something that's very simple, right? It should be something that's very easy, and it's just, you just get it. You know what I mean? You don't have to be drilled. It doesn't have to be drilled in you, and you shouldn't feel bad if you don't get the lesson, right? It should be something that's adaptable, right? And so that's what we're going to do here with this, and that's what we try to do here on this platform. So anyway, and so today, let's get into that. But before we do that, I want to make sure you are very aware over at SambaTree.com. We're still running our promo, over 30% off sale that's going on right now. So all of your health and wellness needs, make sure you check it out over on our website, SambaTree.com. That is going on right now. We sent out an email this week, speaking of which, I don't know if you guys seen the article or not, but it was an article that came out this week about, it was an investigation. There was the vice president of Campbell Soup Company. I don't know if you guys caught this or not. He actually was at some meeting or whatever it was, and he acknowledged to whoever it was he was talking. And this is the vice president now. He said to this person, he said, I don't even eat this stuff. He said, this soup, he says, for poor people. He said, we got this, 3D printed meat, glued up meat, and whatever else he was saying in there. He said, I don't even eat this crap. I don't eat it. Now, this is Campbell Soup. Now, Campbell Soup is a pretty big deal. This ain't some little small thing. I mean, Campbell Soup, that's a pretty major thing. And we showed you in the article, not in the article, in the news report, the reporter herself, it was so funny, just to show you the power of advertising. Even with all of that, she ends the report by sitting at a table eating Campbell Soup. So they're telling you how poisonous it is, from the vice president. But at the end, those Campbell Soup coins told her, no, you better wrap this up eating some soup, because this is the worst time of the year for them for that news to get out. But I'm telling you this because when we hear things like that here on this platform, we don't just tell you and that's it. I'm constantly thinking about, okay, what is the solution? What can we do? What can we come up with? And that's what we did. We actually cooked up a few recipes just for you using Samba Tree ingredients, not as the sole thing, but just as an ingredient that you can add to your stuff. So that's on our email list. And make sure you check it out. If you're on the email list, make sure you get on it. and we give you that. So you don't have to depend on these people anymore who are coming out now and saying that they're using all kinds of 3D printed meat and all this other stuff. You don't have to depend on that anymore, right? We can come up with our own solutions. And that's what I always try to encourage you here to do, just that, to come up with your own solutions, build your own stuff, all right? Because it's all in you. It is. Those solutions are right in you. So yeah, so make sure, again, Cybertree promo going on right now, up to 30% off. We're way ahead of the game because, everybody's doing their Black Friday sale. Well, we've been on it for a minute here. So make sure you check it out. One more time, the website is cybertree.com. All right, let's go ahead and get into it, shall we? All right, so I just shared with you our background as far as being in the, Christian world and Hebrew world and all of that. And, as someone who, I went through those phases. I went through those phases of, Christmas was something that was just very special. It really is. And it was growing up. I think about, out of all the times of the year, it was a very special time. It was something that as children, man, we just look forward to it. And, how many of you guys remember the catalogs, like the Sears catalog, if you're of a certain age? I know everything's online right now and you can download the app now. Is Sears still around? I don't know. But, JCPenney's is still around. I was surprised at that. But anyway, Sears had their catalog. JCPenney, I just mentioned them. They had their catalog. And it was a smaller retailer. It was called Best, not Best Buy, but Best. That was the other one. That was my personal favorite. And man, I would get a hold of that catalog, and all year I would just be circling the different toys and things I wanted and all that stuff, and just counting down the days. And then when we would get to fall, the season starts getting cold. We were like, you see people putting the Thanksgiving decorations up, and it's like, oh man, okay, we're getting there. Thanksgiving decorations go down, and what comes up next? Oh, the Christmas decorations, right? And then on CBS, they would play, what would they play every year around this time? Charlie Brown's Christmas. And you knew you were in the zone then when they started playing Charlie Brown Christmas. That to me was still probably one of my favorite cartoons, Charlie Brown's Christmas. I absolutely loved it. The Grinch Stole Christmas, I like that one too. It was just, if it's on, I'll watch it. Frosty the Snowman, all that stuff. I used to watch all those things and absolutely loved it. I loved everything about the season, everything. And of course, as children, it was mainly the toys, but it was also the parties. It was the times of getting together with friends and family and all of that, getting together with relatives and all of that. It were very fun and very memorable times, that I would always remember. Now, when it comes to religion, then once religion got into the picture, if you think I'm just going to be all negative, I'm not. Okay, we're just going to, like I said again, we're going to be completely open discussion here. And I would highly recommend you to, if you have any input that you want to put into the conversation, put it in the chat. If you have a question, put it in the chat. What I don't want is this long list of scriptures, because I just, no. Okay, we're having a conversation. I don't conversate that way. Okay, so we're just going to be regular. Okay, let's put our stuff down and let's just talk. Okay, and so what someone said, and all the Home Alones. Yes, Home Alone. Who could forget that? Yeah, Home Alone 2, all of that Home Alone. I think by the time they got to 3, I think they swapped out the guy, Macaulay Culkin. They put some other dude. I was, Oh, and then Die Hard, because you remember Die Hard. That was an action movie that was that took place around Christmas, but they would play it around Christmas. So there was a bunch of stuff I used to watch. Oh, Mr. Magoo's Christmas. I have to be honest with you. I actually found that online. I downloaded that thing. I was wearing that thing out last year, and I'm going to wear it out again this year. I Absolutely. That Mr. Magoo's Christmas, I would have to say, was probably on top of my list, quite honest. I'm be honest with you. That was probably one of my favorite. Charlie Brown, of course, but Mr. Magoo's Christmas was probably near the top, was absolutely at the top. I may pull it up again. That, oh my goodness. That was something. Yeah, Christmas Carol, all varieties of it, the whole nine, right? And so what religion did, as I started getting deeper into it, right? It began to start pushing this. What it did, the positive side of it, is when, the Bible has these themes of being, separating yourselves, right? Separating yourselves from the unbeliever, right? Separating yourself, right? Now, you could take that many ways. Some people were extremely dogmatic about it, and some people got the general gist of what was being communicated. So all of us, I think we can relate. We got some people in our families that were, I'm talking just church folk now, that were just, oh no, no, it's gonna be drinking there. Oh no, it's gonna be smoking there. No, I ain't going there. And again, I'm not here to smash anybody who has that. Okay, we're just kind of identifying the different players here, right? And so when I reflect on that now, that wasn't actually that bad, quite honestly. That actually wasn't that really bad of advice. And what I mean by that is that family members come in all sizes, shapes, and colors and flavors. There are some people who are very precious and dear within the family that, they cool. You know what I mean? You see them every now and then. You can hang out with them. Cool. They're fine. But then you got some folks who just act the absolute fool. They already that sober. They the fool. But when you start bringing in the alcohol, oh my gosh. I mean, it just turns up. It turns into a crazy house. And so you already know what to expect when Uncle Jimmy starts drinking. You already know what to expect when Auntie so-and-so, they start doing this. You already know. I mean, back in my day, we used to do the Soul Train line at our family parties. I mean, loved it. And I remember, some of y'all don't remember this stuff. Maybe you don't, but when smoking was a thing, like I'm old enough to remember when you were going to the department stores and people be smoking. Like that was I mean, y'all remember that? You literally were going to department stores, people be lighting it up and smoking like it's nothing. Seriously, that's how it was back then. And then, so in our parties, when we have our family parties, I could still hear, some of the music that was being played. And then when they start drinking, and then you got that one uncle, come here, son. Come here, let me give you a hug. And he's smoking, and about every tobacco field that your ancestors and my ancestors picked, and it literally is coming out of his mouth. And I just be like, whoo, I'll be getting lit. Just smoke between that and every distillery on the East Coast was coming out of Uncle so-and-so's mouth. And for some reason, that same uncle would get in the car after it was all over and drive everybody home and be straight, and he would make it home. I mean, literally the most lit one there, and he would get folks home. One of the biggest mysteries of my childhood that I still ain't figured out. I got to figure that one out, but don't try it. But anyway, but yeah, but then you had some people who just acted the whole fool. I mean, the whole fool. And, you don't want to, what religion did was actually help us to put our foot down and say, well, no, I don't necessarily want to be in that environment. I love y'all, but I don't want to be around a lot of cigarette smoke. I don't want to be around alcohol or whatever. I just don't. And most importantly, I don't want to try to have conversations with you and you intoxicated, because we can't have a conversation. I remember this was a few years ago. I had relatives that reached out to me and they were like, hey, we're going to do one big Zoom call. Man, we got on the Zoom call and I'm thinking, oh, we're gonna be catch up and say hi, whatever. Everybody was on there that was drunk. Everybody was on that Zoom call was drunk. And everybody was talking the same time. They were all talking the same time. And it was so bad. I was sitting up here making faces and going on like this. I wish I had screen recorded. And it took them like 20 minutes to catch on what I was doing. I mean, for real. And they would do, yeah. And so that was like, and so that was something. So do I want to be around? Is that my family? Yes. Do I want to be around that? No, I don't want to be around that, because I can't have a good conversation with people if you intoxicated. Come back to me when you're not intoxicated. Unfortunately, the holidays are a time where a lot of people do get intoxicated. That's their way of relaxing and all that. That's them, right? For me personally, I just don't want to be around that. And when I was in Christianity, it helped bring that awareness to me that, hey, you don't necessarily you don't have to be around that, and like I said, some people took that to the hilt and said, these people are sinners, they're going to hell and all of that. And even though in the back of my mind, I kind of was believing that, I still saw them as my cousins and my uncles and stuff like that at the end of the day, right? And so that was, I would say, in Christianity, that was actually a good thing that I could pull from and say it at least brought that awareness that, I don't have to feel some kind of way and not attending, some of these functions if certain things are going on that I don't necessarily feel comfortable with. And of course, I mean, if you got family members who are, very weird, if you know what I mean, of course, if you don't want to be around that, you shouldn't have to feel any kind of way to choose that you don't want to be around that, right? So that's understandable too. And then when we got into the Hebrew world, well, they took things very dogmatic and said that no, absolutely under no situation at all should you find yourself celebrating or even acknowledging any of these holidays at all, because all of these holidays are of the devil. They are wicked. When you look at the history of these holidays and stuff like that, and what they did, they slaughtered all of the natives that were here, and the slaves, they made us go and serve them food and all of that. And so by acknowledging these holidays, or as we would like to say, the holidays, what you're doing is you are participating in their wickedness. You are continuing on their evil practices, right? And so I get the history of it because, again, we love history over here, right? So yeah, when you do look at the history of these different holidays, there are parts of it that are very dark. I mean, it's just what it is. And in fact, what in our society isn't, for that matter. My contention with people, particularly coming from that sphere, the Hebrew or the very dogmatic view when it comes to holidays, is that you don't measure with a straight ruler when it comes to how you measure these holidays. You don't. And to prove that, I actually have a video. I'm not going to play it. Maybe I should. But there is a video that I did a while back, and the title of it is, I'll actually bring it up on the screen, and then I'll decide from here if I'm going to play it or not. But this is a long video. If you're going to watch this video, I would suggest starting at the 44-minute mark, okay? Because the first half of the video, I'm actually talking about Samba Tree. We were having a big sale at that time. We still are now, right? This video, I actually did this 2 years ago. The title of it is called Hebrews and Their Holidays, Know the History. And so in this video, we actually went through all of these so-called set apart days that are celebrated by not just Hebrews, but, Hebrew Israelites. They do exactly what the practitioners of Judaism do. I mean, they do this, but yet they say, no, they're copying off of us, so forth and so on. No, you are actually doing exactly what they do, And so what we did, one part of the video is we looked at, I'm trying to pull it up here. we looked at all of the calendars. We looked at the calendar of that Hebrews abide by, right? And they swear by it and say this is God's ordained time. There was another video, it's not in this video, but we looked at more holidays that Hebrews celebrate, like the moon festivals and all of that. And if you really look at it, this comes from, when you look at the different belief systems that came out of the Levant, out of that region, there's a whole bunch of mixture that takes place. And so any culture that you see centering themselves around the moon, the phases of the moon, that is directly tied to moon worship. It is. Now, am I telling you that you are worshiping the moon if you're participating in any type of moon festival? No, I'm not. No. Some people just do it because it's just a holiday, right? But let me I will play a little bit of this video. And I just noticed this was on BondTube, which was a video platform we created some time ago, but it's not there anymore. But anyway, let me play a little bit of this video and just listen to this short part here, okay? And to talk about the origin of the Hebrew calendar, Babylonian calendar. Here we go. And as you go through it here's all the names of the months of the Babylonian calendar. What you see on your screen there. All right. Babylon. That was a place where we were in captivity, right? And a lot of times a lot of people like to quote, we got to come out of her. We got to come out. We got to flee Babylon. We got to separate ourselves from Babylon. Get out of whoa. Wait a minute here. Hold up for a second. Hold up. Wait a minute. Now, you can't really see it here. Let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger. It's a little blurred, but I'm pointing you to the video. I told you the name of the video, and I'll tell you again once this clip is over. But I'll make this a little bit bigger. Hopefully you can see it here, okay? And then go ahead and hit play again for you. Now let's look at the Hebrew calendar.
My.
Look at the words. Take your time. I ain't going nowhere. Look at the words. How many times have you heard Hebrews saying, oh, we got to separate ourselves? I ain't going by their calendar. I'm going by the Most High's calendar. I'm going by the Hebrew calendar. Well, look at the names of the months. They just changed it just slightly, but it's the same thing.
Babylonian calendar.
The Babylonian calendar and the Hebrew calendar are one and the same. They're one and the same. They just changed it just a little bit, but it's the same thing. Let me bring your attention to the 4th month. Tammuz. Wait a minute. Hold up for a freaking minute. Hold on for a second. Tammuz, ain't that a god? Yeah, it's a god. It's a Babylonian god. So how in the world, this is a Hebrew calendar, and one of your months is named after a Babylonian god? In fact, it ain't just that month. There's some other months here too that are named after gods.
Right.
So when you hear people telling you, we got to separate ourselves, we got to get off the Babylonian calendar, and you got folks, you're doing the best you can with what you know. You're doing the best you can with what you know, okay? Just like we all are. But you got some folks that they just get so dogmatic with this, and they really believe by following the Hebrew calendar that's a way of separating yourself from Babylon. Honey, you just in another section, you just down the street. You just on the next block. It's the same town.
Let me just read a few of them just for the people who
All right, go ahead.
So Babylonian calendar, 1st month, Nisanu. Hebrew calendar, Nisan. Babylonian calendar, 2nd month, Iyaru. Hebrew calendar, Iyar. Babylonian calendar, 3rd month of the year, Simanu. Hebrew calendar, Siwan. Okay, you already mentioned Tammuz. Babylonian Abu. Hebrew calendar, 5th month, Ab. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. Down at the bottom, Adaru on the Babylonian calendar, Hebrew, Adair. Sabatu, Babylonian, Hebrew, Sibat. Dwayne, can you bring up the email I just sent you to your following? It was constantly a point of contention in the so-called awakening, constantly a point of contention.
Let me go back here. I'm just trying to cover some of the things that we were talking about here. Here we go.
Crazy over the calendar. You know what I mean? We never said, okay, this is the calendar. We're adopting this calendar. Let's, because people would fight over which phase of the moon it is, which calendar are we following. It was constantly a point of contention in the so-called awakening. Constantly a point of contention. People would be having debates and disagreements over which phase of the moon and which calendar you're following, and all this. All confusion. And at the end of the day, you fighting over which Babylonian schedule are we going to follow? Literally. Right? So this is real simple. Can you bring up the next one?
It never, for me, it never was natural. It never felt natural.
Right.
And we get emails from people who, want us or want me to explain it. And I was like, I'm not the one. I don't know how to do it.
Right. So you look at this one. So perfectly positioned. You've got your 6-point star in the middle. You've got your Asherah representation there in the menorah, and then you've got all of your Babylonian months, and then your biblical feasts all around them. And again, there's absolutely, positively no way that you could be observing whatever it is you're trying to observe on the proper day, in the proper way, if you're following a Babylonian calendar, because there's absolutely no way the Babylonian calendar is going to coincide perfectly with the timeline of the most righteous Father. There's absolutely no way. Can you go back, Dwayne, to the email?
Now I'm going to, hold on, let me stop here for a second. This is me in 2025, I'm talking, okay? So let me see. And it goes a lot deeper here. I would encourage you just to check out that video again. It's called Hebrews and Their Holidays Obsession, Know the History. And so, for those, that are coming out of the Hebrew world, or you're still in it, I would highly encourage you to take a look at that video, because it's all facts. And I know from time to time, I'll get the comment from someone saying that, oh, no, you pulled from their version, the fake Jews, you pulled from their calendar, but our calendar, no, your calendar is based off of their stuff, period. So whatever little minor changes you try to make, that is your root. That is your center. That's where you pull from. Okay, so you could bring all the scriptures or whatever you want, but at the end of the day, that's what you're following. And if you are following, so what I'm saying is this, am I calling you a moon worshiper? No, I'm not. I'm not calling you that. If this is something that, you just do because, hey, I just like it, it feels right, then you do it. But what I'm saying is, if you're going to measure other people and what they celebrate, make sure you use the same ruler that you're using for yourself. That's all I'm saying. Because if you're going to dig into the depths in the very bowels of the history of Christmas and the very bowels and depth of Thanksgiving and all of that, okay, fine. And whatever you feel strong conviction that you're not going to acknowledge that, because what I came back with in slavery and Satan worship and all that other stuff, never mind the fact that most people who acknowledge these holidays aren't even into that. When I was in the beginning of this video, when I was talking about those fun times and things like that I was, growing up, what Christmas was about and all of that, my Uncle George wasn't setting up a little altar and saying, okay, everybody, before we start, let's all bow down to the God of whatever. Nobody did that. There was no, we're going to light certain candles up and we're going to pray to the goddess of whatever. Nobody did that. It was a time, the only things that we did was there was a lot of music. There was a lot of dancing. and there was a lot of food, there was a lot of hugs, and it was more dancing. That's all it was. That's it. What we were celebrating, and I'm speaking particularly us as Black folks, was an opportunity for us to come together, because this was the one time of the year that most of us had time off. Well, I wasn't working then, so my time off was whatever school said I had time off. But for our adults and all that who had jobs, this was like the one time of the year where it was just the easiest thing for people to take off and go into grandma's house, grandpa's house, uncle, auntie, cousin, whomever. And it was just a wonderful time that it was just the most convenient thing to do, to kind of get together with your friends and family. There was none of this worship stuff. So when I hear people try to say to me and try to make this argument that, well, even though you're not worshiping, they are tricking you into really, that's what you're celebrating. That's what you're really doing. You're still subvertly are worshiping and acknowledging these gods. Okay, fine. Then use the same measuring stick for what you celebrate. But see, you won't do that, because if you do that, then that's going to make you look like a hypocrite, right? So again, what I'm asking is this, all I'm saying is this, based off of this, whatever you choose to do, that's your choice. But if you're going to measure other people and what they do during this time of the year, make sure you use the same ruler for everybody, starting with you. That is what I'm saying in this, okay? So I would encourage you, if you get some extra time, if you haven't seen that video, make sure you watch that video, because it's a very good video that really goes into looking at that, looking at the history of that. And this is something that most Hebrews, I would say all Hebrews, will not go into this territory. They won't, because they're so busy looking at other people and seeing how far off they are. The other thing I want you to realize too is that some of the main people who are on social media, who are on their bully pulpit telling you the horrors of this season and all of that, are many times themselves probably some of the most depressed people that you would ever want to meet. Today, I was telling my daughter, I was on social media. I forgot what platform I was on, but I just jumped on there for like a hot minute. And I get on there, and one of the first things I see is a slave. It was a slave. This guy was clearly a slave, and he had it was like a wood shackle that was around his neck. And the guy, his neck was all contorted. He wasn't lynched, but you could see it was extremely uncomfortable. It was like an old photo. And over the headline of the picture says, "Never forget what they did to you during this season." And I'm sitting up here thinking, and I said, wow, this right here, listen, am I asking you, am I telling you, am I suggesting to you to forget the bad things that people did to you? No, it's part of your history. But that's not the only part of our history. And I'm not going to use an occasion such like this to make me feel better about, because what people do is that they will post a bunch of these pictures. This is one of the most popular times of the year, by the way, where you'll see a lot of people who make these choices not to go to these holiday functions or anything like that. They'll usually spend this time of the year on social media, and they will post a bunch of these slave narratives, these slaves where they was lynching people and all this other stuff. And it's really, then it's not so much of a mystery now as to why depression is so high during this time of the year, when you're constantly throwing that in people's faces. Now, again, let me repeat it again. Am I saying or suggesting that we should forget that part of our history? No, I'm not. But what I am saying to you is that it's not the only part of our history, because if you're going to be consistent, again, using the same measuring stick, there are countless numbers of stories that I can bring up to you about how even during those times, our people, and talk about Black folks now, when they were allowed to, they also celebrated this time of the year. And they weren't celebrating in the sense of, oh, Odin and Thor, we worship you, we thank you. No, they celebrated this time of the year because it was like, we ain't got to work for the man for one day. We got one day we ain't got to work for the man. And it was a time where, people on the plantation, they would come together, they would do, put things together, they would sing, they would dance and all that other stuff. And then the day after, of course, they would get back to work, but they were granted an opportunity where they can actually come together and find something to celebrate. In the midst of all of that, that's what they did. That is your history. That is your history. You want to talk about history? That's part of our history there. But that's the part that a lot of these very depressed individuals will not share. Instead, they want to keep you in this perpetual state of always lamenting, oh, they done did this to us, and I remember back then and all this other stuff. No. And what I'm saying to you is no, don't fall for that. Okay? I actually look for something here because there is a connection, believe it or not. And then I'll get to your comments too, because if you have something to add to this conversation, if you got a question or anything like that, feel free to do that. But like I said, again, for those who like to wait until after the video's finished, and then you want to load your comments down with scripture after scripture after scripture after scripture, it's not going to be read. Okay. Just simple as that. Let's just talk normal. Let's just talk regular. Okay. Let's be plain folks. Okay. I'm just going to read to you some of the things that I was able to come up with. What happens when you do isolate yourself, from family? Now, just like I said, again, I made the distinction. What I am saying here is I am not saying to you that you must put yourself in a position when you're around folks who maybe have a history of doing damage to you. You know what I mean? Whatever that means. No, I mean, if it's something that you feel like when you walk away from that environment, you're going to feel more depressed and sad and all of that, then that's probably a good indication that you probably shouldn't go in the first place. Okay. But if it's grandma or, if grandma, she got her head on right, and grandpa and the uncles and all that, and it's just people getting together, having food and having a good time, I don't see how that's going to be something that's going to be the ultimate judgment. You're gonna face that. And speaking of hell, I would encourage you to go to our other YouTube page, which is long form history. I just did a short, I would say videos under an hour about hell and the history of hell and where that actually came from. So I would really encourage you to look at this because, again, people say a lot of stuff, but they never take the time and actually dig in and really find out, okay, where did this stuff really come from? You're going to be quite amazed at where this origin of eternal damnation and hell actually came from. And again, that's on our long form history channel. So make sure you check that out. So I'll just bring this up on the screen here since, my faith mug has been up on the screen all along here. But let's just kind of skim through some of this stuff here on our findings here. Let's see. Your belief does have a real, in research, being cut off from warm, supportive loved ones, especially during culturally important times like the holidays, is linked to worse mental and physical health. But there are also important caveats around toxic families and religious trauma, which we talked about, Across hundreds of studies, a few big patterns are very clear. Loneliness and social isolation are now treated as a public health problem, not just hurt feelings. The CDC and the U.S. Surgeon General report that loneliness and social disconnection increase risk of heart disease, stroke, dementia, depression, anxiety, and premature death. Wow. Meta-analysis, which is big combined studies, show that people who are more socially connected live longer. A classic meta-analysis of 148 studies found that people with longer social relationships had about a 50% higher chance of survival compared with those who were more isolated, an effect size comparable to smoking versus non-smoking. Wow. A 2023 meta-analysis of 90 cohort studies found social isolation and loneliness each raised all-cause mortality risk by 30% and 14% respectively. Wow, I didn't know that. So there's a connection when you are disconnecting yourself from being around supportive and loving people. Okay? Again, we're being mature about this. We're not saying you must thrust yourself amongst toxic people. Because if you're dealing with toxic people, then no, you don't need to be around them. But if the people aren't toxic, you need to use that opportunity to kind of feed you what your body and your psychology and what it needs, right? Let's see. Human beings need ongoing, meaningful relationships. Long-term isolation isn't neutral. It is a risk factor. That doesn't mean that every single holiday you miss will ruin your health, but it does mean a pattern of withdrawing from supportive people can be harmful over time. And then it goes on some other stuff here, some of the stuff that we've actually already touched on earlier in this video here. So again, I'm stressing to you, I am not suggesting to you if you have family members who are toxic, and you know that, man, when I leave from them, I'm just going to feel more depressed, or they always going to bring up some wild stuff. I just don't want to be around that. Then you should feel free to make that decision and say, no, I'm not going to be around that, right? But outside of that, outside of the toxic stuff, if we're just simply dealing with a family gathering of people, or just a gathering of people who are loving and supportive, and will be with you, things fall through or whatever, they're going to be in your corner. You're going to want to make sure that you're around people like that and keep them close, right? One of the things like people like to pull on in the Bible, where it talks about how, Jesus came, to bring a sword, and he put the mother against the father, and all of that, the father, however it reads, that, this is, if I'm going to be following the steps of Jesus, then I got to, this is just par for the course. I can't have anybody else around me. Nope. If they don't want this truth, if they don't want to listen to what I'm presenting to them as truth, and they don't want to hear it, well, sucks to be you. I'm just going to separate myself, because the word says this is what's going to happen anyway. Right? But I also remember the same, if Jesus did say that, I also remember the same Jesus had 12 disciples around him. So yeah, he had people. Do you got 12? I'm just saying. I mean, let's keep it a buck. Do you got folks? So we do, at the end of the day, as human beings, we need other people. We do. Doesn't mean that you got to have people around you all the time. I quite frankly like being by myself most of the time. Myself, and then being around my family members, of course, and my immediate family here and all that. I'm cool with. I enjoy that. When more people come in and stuff like that, I'm good with that or whatever. But then I'll be ready to dip in a moment, because, you're just kind of watching things. You know what I'm saying? But I can be myself, really being isolated at times. But at the end of the day, we do need people. Now, what if you're someone that lives by yourself? What I would encourage you to do is to find opportunities where you can connect with people. And when I say connect with people, I'm not saying just going to the mall and walking around and looking at people. I'm saying get into something, find things where you can, and opportunities where you can actually have conversations with people. And I'm saying this because this is a growing epidemic that is happening, that's been happening in society thanks to social media. Because now with social media, people they're like, hey, I'll just FaceTime you, you know what I mean? Or I'll just text you. And what I'm saying is there is nothing like being around physical people. There's nothing that can replace that. Absolutely nothing. What's his name? Elon Musk can build a whole army of robots. It's not the same. Being around other people is priceless. And it's something that all of us need from time to time. Okay? What religion likes to do in order to control you is to isolate you and get you by yourself so that they can say, we're your family. We're your family now. And to religion's credit, be it, the church or whatever, you'll find many stories where people have said positive things. When I'm at church, the reason why I like my church is because it's my church family. I can always go to sister so-and-so. I can always go to brother so-and-so and all of that. That's fine. But see, it's fine until you stop paying your tithes and offerings. It's fine when you decide, you know what, I don't feel like being in it, I feel like I need to move on from this church. Then once you do that, then all of a sudden that whole family they're talking about, they will most likely abandon you. I've been through it many times. People I thought we were going to ride into the sunset until Jesus came back. We were just going to all go together. But the moment we made the decision, my wife and I said, you know what? We see kind of how things are going here. We're not trying to make a scene, but we're going to, move on and see what the next chapter is as far as us going to a church and all of that's concerned. And the day we made that decision, people stopped calling us just like that. People dropped us just like that. I had one guy, I was borrowing his camera. He never called me, but then he called me that same day, was like, hey, do you got my camera? I mean, these people were already making like plans on just leaving, like as if we were just going into the outer darkness somewhere. And, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm just full disclosure. I'm just being transparent with you. Years later, some of those people try to reconnect. I was like, nah, I'm good. Nah, I'm good. Now you may have matured and kind of caught up things, but yeah, for me, I will, I forgive folks, but sometimes, depending on what you did, sometimes you've already shown me your full deck of cards, religion or not. Sometimes people just show who they really are. And so, I have dealt with that in different times of my life where, it's years later, maybe some of these folks change, but I look in and I'm like, it takes me a few minutes. I'm like, no, they're the same people. They're just maybe in a different church, or maybe they're not in the church, but they're still the same people. So I'm very choosy on who I hang with anyway. And so, and as we all should. But anyway, this wasn't going to be a video where I was going to spend a whole lot of time and drill into you. This was, as you saw in this conversation, the purpose of this video is to get you to slow down a little bit and think about, the importance of, just being around people, that there is value to that. And don't allow your religion to dictate you that, because that on a human level is something that's important, regardless if you do it on Christmas, Thanksgiving, or any other day. Don't allow any kind of belief system to do that. And like I said, if you're going to be dogmatic about things, about holidays, and say that, oh, the history of this, that, or whatever, then use the same measuring stick. Like I said, look at your own holidays if you're religious. But let's say you're not a religious person, right? You do know that the months of the year are all named after a different deity, right? You do know that, right? So we're in the month of November. So so if I'm in the month of November, that must mean I'm worshiping the God that's associated with the month of November. When you look at your money, it's got one nation under God under it, but then it's got a big pyramid with the Eye of Horus on it. So that must mean that I'm working for Horus then. You understand what I'm saying? What I'm talking about is, if you're going to make an argument, be consistent. And what you'll find with a lot of religious people, especially, is they're not consistent. They make different rules for different things. And that's what I'm encouraging you to do, is if you're going to judge other people, make sure you're using the same plumb line for everybody, starting with you, So yeah, so this is a really important topic here. And I hope that, people do take it to heart. And, and if you are someone that goes to, your family function, let's say you go to a family function, let's say everybody is religious, and they're like, well, you ain't going to church, son. When you going to go to church and all of that? The most important thing as an individual is you can find ways to kind of weave your way around those conversations, right? You just love them. Love your, if these are family members that have been with you, have supported you, and have loved you throughout the years. I was listening to one story. Someone was saying that, he had family members trying to corner him a little bit, saying, man, don't you know if you would have died tonight, you're going to go to hell, you're going to suffer and all of that. I'm just telling you this because I love you and all of that. And what you got to understand, especially if you're someone who came out of that, have some empathy for them. Meaning, in other words, if someone comes up to you and they're like that and say, you know what, I hear you, I hear your heart, and I do get it. I'm just not there now, but I do appreciate you being someone that is looking out for me. You know what I mean? I do appreciate that. We may not agree on this, but but I do appreciate you for that. And find that place of, just of empathy. You can emphasize with them, because that was you for many of you. That may have been you a few years ago. You understand what I'm saying? So come from it, do it in that way. Try to come in that angle. Don't be the person that's like, oh no, I don't believe in that no more. And you a fool. Don't try to look for an argument. Okay. Don't look for an argument. Look for a way that you can find some middle ground. Okay. Now, if it gets too much and you hear the record player scratch and everybody's facing you and pointing you, then you need to get up out of there. That's something different. Okay. But other than that, no. Mm-mm. All right, so let me get to your comments real quick, and let's take a look here and see what some of y'all are saying. What does this time of the year look like for you and your family now? Do you all celebrate it again? Let's see. Thanksgiving. Now, this year, well, Thanksgiving is tomorrow. It's going to be different because we're moving. And so Thanksgiving for me this year is moving, okay, and cleaning. So this year, no. But last year, yeah, I did get I got a turkey. The the deep fried. I did that. We made a little bit of food. It wasn't really some big thing. It was just like a few things. We sat around, we ate a little bit. My mom was in town, and so we were laughing and have a little fun and fell asleep, and that was it. I think we may have watched a few movies, and that's it. I mean, just typical, what our family would do. That was last year, but this year, that would have been this year too. But yeah, I'm like today I was at storage moving everything out. So I'm working. So after I'm finished this, I'm still going to be working. But yeah, I would do that. Now, Christmas last year, what did we do? Like I said, even as a child, I always enjoyed lights. I also enjoyed the trees and all of that. And, it took a little bit of time once we got out of the Hebrew stuff, but I started doing the tree thing again. I did get a tree. We got a live one and all of that. And just loved the smell that was in the house. And, my thing was putting a little train around it and all that other stuff. And, we really don't do the gift thing. Not really. It's not because it's like, because that means something. No, it's just we take care of each other throughout the year. You know what I'm saying? So we don't really do that. That's us though, right? That's us. But I like taking advantage of sales, that go on this time of the year. I ain't gonna lie, because if I'm getting up to 30% off, wink, wink at Samba Tree, wink, wink. Yeah, I'm going to take advantage of that, or some other thing. If I'm in the market for something, man, it's a great time of the year to participate. And so I'll do that, but, I got to make sure I get a gift for this person and that. No, I don't necessarily do that. But that's us. It's not rooted in anything. It's just we do nice things for people throughout the year. So, it's no different, right? So that's Thanksgiving. Christmas, I kind of talked about Christmas too, but yeah, that's kind of it. And it really helps me to connect with that joy, that I had when I was a child. I just love this time of the year. I absolutely love the smells. I love the lights. I just loved seeing those Christmas lights, around the house, shoot, if I can find one, I'll probably get another train and put it around the house and do all that stuff. I love that. I just absolutely love that stuff. And yeah, that's what I do now. So So yeah, so that's kind of my response to that. Let's see, Todd. He said, health, or I should say, DJ Todd. Yeah, he sent me some of his music. He's on the wheels of, I don't want to say wheels of steel, but the digital wheels. He said you're a Ben Tankard dude, because the music he sent me, it was reminding me of Allen and Allen. But he said, but I heard a little Ben in there too. I got you. But it was, other than that, he did a very good job. It was great stuff. So who knows, Todd? You might have a career sitting up there. Who knows, man? But anyway. Oh yeah, and that, speaking of which, Todd, yeah, they said that Suno did settle with the record labels. So I'm gonna dive into that myself offline. I'm very curious about what changes that's going to bring to that platform. But anyway, here we go. Justice 85151 said your mental health is so valuable, just like the Dallas Cowboy player unalived himself weeks ago. Yes. I remember hearing that. Your circle of friends are so important to your well-being. Yep. So very true. So very true. People are doing this all the time. And what he just said, what this individual just said, is so on point. A lot of times people put their religion above their mental health. And I'm not saying that's the case for this individual here, that unalived himself. But what I'm saying is this, is that if you're dealing with something, if you tend to isolate yourself a lot, you don't have someone in your life that you can really be yourself with. If you don't have that, you are doing yourself more harm. You are. If you don't have that person in your life, and I know for some people, if you are a widow or widower, that kind of thing, you've had a whole lifetime of having that person, right? And then they're not there anymore. And so it's not going to be easy, right? It's not going to be easy for you you're not looking for a replacement of that partner, but you still need to kind of like, I know in the case of my mom, for example, she actually took that opportunity to get counseling, professional counseling, and it's helped her to navigate through these waters on how to, what now, that kind of thing. And that's a very helpful thing. So for people who even fall in that category, I would recommend that. You're not looking for a replacement. You're just looking for, okay, how do I readjust? Because I'm still human. I still have those needs on wanting to communicate with someone that's very close and all of that. And so, I would definitely recommend that. Other than that, I'll just look through here one more time and see if there's anybody else has anything else here. But yeah, the mental illness, the mental health thing is so important, especially during this time of the year. And a lot of times when people are on social media, like I was saying earlier, that are always talking about or going very extra hard on don't celebrate these holidays. The reason why they're doing that is because, how, like I said, the saying goes, misery loves company. A lot of times people just want company in their own misery, and you shouldn't be rushing to join in their own misery. You understand what I'm saying? So again, I think that's it. I just looked through the chat to see if anybody had anything else. But if you do have any other further questions or anything like that, make sure you just put it in the comment section. And hopefully if I notice it, I'll respond to it in time and all of that. And but yeah, I think this is a very good conversation. And I hope if you're in that middle ground area and you're trying to figure out the holidays and you're someone that, like me, that came out of these belief systems and you're like, okay, what do I do now? I'm just kind of laying everything out and you decide on what you want to do at the end of the day. Okay. But that's it. That's all I have for you. Thanks again. You guys take care. And yes, we will be talking again soon. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.